Opera. It's all divas, decadence, and drama, right? Well, not quite. Festival Opera is thrilled to bring you our interview series Behind the Mask, and I'm your host, Ruchi Capella. Artists and collaborators share their stories of blood, sweat, tears, and triumphs in navigating performance careers and their unexpected paths to full on love affairs with classical music. We embrace creating a platform for discussing current social issues in the context of opera as an industry and humanizing the arts. Join us for these approachable, inclusive, humorous, and candid conversations. It's opera unmasked. Hello again. We're here for the 2022 season for Festival Opera and doing our interview series Behind the Mask. And I'm so excited to be sitting here with Shana Blake Hill today. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm thrilled to be here. I finally made it to Behind the Mask.
Yeah,
I feel so special.
I too also made it to Behind the Mask, which is pretty amazing. Just to give you some background, Blake, I'll call you Blake for the
Yes, please.
recording, if that's okay. We met when I actually did chorus for Susanna, which was in 2019 for Festival Opera, and you played the eponymous role, and it was really, really a fantastic performance or set of performances. So I just wanted to ask you, how do you feel returning to Festival Opera after that successful run?
Oh my goodness. It's such a privilege to come back. Susanna still is my finest and proudest work to date, and in a full role. I just don't think I've ever been able to, up until that point, to really just bring everything, all of my imagination, all of my skills to the table. And Festival Opera is just so warm and welcoming, but also so good at allowing an artist to be all that they are. And Susanna, for me, was that moment. And so coming back and getting another chance to live in that kind of reality is, especially after this pandemic, boy, is it a blessing. I am very conscious of.
I just want to warn everybody who's also watching that we're going to have some cat cameos, as it were. I think that really works effectively for algorithms in general. So I'll try to keep it in. And I appreciate all of you being patient. You know, I obviously work for someone else.
Possible working title: Behind the Cat.
Behind the cat. That is my whole life experience, actually.
Right. The woman.
It's quite heartbreaking. But you also have pets, don't you?
I do. I am the mommy behind the giant hair beast that is my dog daughter. I just pretty much, consult her spreadsheet on a daily basis and figure out how I'm failing her.
Well, you've told me she's a couch dog, right? She's very...
Yes.
She likes to luxuriate.
Yes, she feels entitled to as much comfort as is available in the house, and you really cannot join her on said couch. You are not welcome. She's a long, very large beast, and she takes advantage of all the space she can cover.
She's a true diva. She would make an excellent opera singer, I think.
She is. She's the ultimate. Yeah, she's the ultimate diva dog.
Ask her if she's available to teach me about any sort of negotiation tactics too.
Her negotiation tactics are look really cute when there's food and look really judgy if there's not food. And I think it works. It really works.
I thought that was my shtick only. That's okay. Well, I can jump on so many tangents with you because it's just really awesome to be able to see you face to face, especially during pandemic.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of circle back and talk about some of the things that you've been doing with Festival Opera for this year, including rejuvenating our mixtape digital stage series with I believe your recital released in April on our
Correct.
YouTube channel, right?
Correct.
And that was something that our general and artistic director, Zachary Gordon, played piano for as well. So tell me a little bit about how you designed the program for Mixtape. What were some of the themes that you wanted to convey?
Sure. A little bit it happened organically because initially when Zachary Gordon and I were talking about what the program was sort of focused on and what it was about, and it's a little bit of a getting to know you process, and because it's such an intimate um, vehicle to really, make personal choices for what you really love to sing, and also that's somewhat biographical for you, anything that you just really want to share about who you are as an artist. And so I just kind of brainstormed my way through things that I've always loved to sing, and they kind of fell into a pattern. And I didn't really realize until we got to the shooting of it, because of course, the world changes on a dime every minute these days, um, that really what I was focusing on so much was love, nostalgia, and just this longing for peace. And so when I chose Vado Pupile to begin, it was kind of a remembering of some of the first arias I learned to sing in undergrad and graduate school, and then covering that role at LA Opera, and just kind of finding my way through that repertoire earlier in my career, and then going on to, of course, Casta Diva, which will be coming up when I return to Festival Opera. But Casta Diva also being this, really personal, intimate prayer for peace. And then moving on into La Vallée, that being really about a young woman leaving home to be her own woman. And she says, I'm going to go, I'm going to leave my house like the bells, leave the bell free in the church and ring out over these white mountains. And I'll leave all of that behind in my mother's kitchen and all of that sort of thing. So that's very much, La Vallée was something I fell in love with when I saw Wilhelmina Fernandez sing it. A glorious black soprano when I was in high school. This cult film Diva came out, and that image of this beautiful black woman in this one-shouldered, very modern dress, singing this extraordinary aria that had so much longing and loneliness, but also strength in it. And then going on to My People, which was on a text by Langston Hughes, Ricky Ian Gordon's song from Genius Child, a group of songs, a song cycle based on Langston Hughes poetry. And Langston Hughes having been a personal friend of my great-grandmother's. I, in fact, have a photo of him standing with my grandparents and my grandmother holding my aunt. And it's right around the time where she probably also was holding my mother, just we couldn't see it yet. And so he's been part of our family circle on that side of my family, on the black side of my family for years. So when he says my people, for me, that really means my people and my family, and being far from them during this pandemic, and so that, and then finally I ended with La Vie en Rose, which, I've always been a Francophile. I one of these days I'm going to get to Paris at last. I'm hoping it's this fall. If we keep being able to travel, I'm finally going to get to Paris in September. And French has been in my life since my mother was a French scholar, and when I was little, used to teach me French songs. So La Vie en Rose also being a song written by Edith Piaf during the World War II conflict, when things were really dire, and when the love of her life was killed, fighter pilot over France. So right at this time, we were all thinking so strongly of the situation in Ukraine. And really, our world has been rocked by so many worldwide events that have kept us divided, and kept us, really longing for peace and connectedness. And so somehow all of those things must have been in my consciousness when that through line just came through. So when we were recording it that night, it just became so evident to me that that's what it was all about. It was really all about loving people who are far from me through this medium of online streaming, and really wishing that we all can find a little inner peace.
Absolutely. I really loved how you kind of walk through, for me as well as anybody that watches this, like all of the context that is so important for you in terms of program development whenever you're doing a recital. And that may not be something that occurs to every vocalists that I've spoken to, but it means a lot to me that you really think about the time that we live in with any of the work that you've done and your performances and tying those pieces together. And one of the things I love about mixtape as well is that I think it allows people to play with genre and style and have a little bit more flexibility.
Yes.
And was that something that you found like freeing about the process?
100%. You know, I always love when I'm able to bring a little crossover effort, because I have a background in music theater and a little bit of jazz, and you know, I came up with such a multicultural love of all different kinds of music. So anytime I can break the recital uh, tradition and mix it up a little bit, I think it's good for people's brains too, because when they have, you know, a little taste of a lot of things, and some of them are familiar and delicious, and some of them are challenging, you just take it in all. Your palate, you know, becomes more sophisticated musically. So I think anytime we can mix it up is a good thing.
I agree. I think it's definitely something that supports relatability and engagement with the audience, irrespective of their backgrounds, and that's really, really important in terms of, especially the work that we do.
Well, and
Um,
most people wouldn't have heard a classical technique, for instance, sing La Vie en Rose. You generally hear a more jazz-oriented voice put that song in, but you know, a classical technique can be applied to any kind uh, of melody or piece of music, and you know, crossing over helps people understand that.
that's a really excellent point because I think I associate that with the jazz technique. I also I think associate La Vie en Rose with a number of pack of cigarettes, maybe.
I know, right? Sure, La Vie Rose tends to be more associated with kind of a French street singer belt style. You know, she has this incredibly vital, urgent, kind of raspy sound to her voice, and it's because she was a street singer. She sang on the streets for her living, and so once she became famous, you know, that microphone picked up that urgency of making your daily bread. So to hear a classical technique, which is certainly not a better rendition, just a different one.
Right.
Anytime you hear an artist cover a song, you get a little snapshot of their soul and of their instrument, and you get to see something very familiar in a new light. And I think all covers are wonderful because it shows the strength of the song as well, to stand up to more than just the artist.
And the interpretation of the individual artist, right? Do you think it's possible for an operatic technique or a classical voice technique to also have rawness in it? I
Oh, yes. I mean, especially in the more dramatic roles. I mean, you have to be able to go into that, you know, chest voice of death. You have to be able to really, you know, I mean, you do. You know, how many times, you know, as I'm developing Norma over here, you know, how many
Oh
times
yeah.
does she, you know, get down into that mora kind of place? Um,
Well, she's pissed. I mean, it makes a
well,
lot of sense.
right.
Yeah, she has
And
good
chest
reason.
She does. And chest voice really, you know, communicates a depth of feeling that you have to be able to ride the edge of being a little ugly for a minute. You know, bel canto is bel canto. Of course, it's all beautiful singing, but in order to make it not just a pretty pageant, you have to be able to allow yourself, like any great actress, to have moments of humanity and ugliness. Honestly,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I wanted to, well, before I actually move on, I want to make sure that everybody watching this makes a point of going to festivalopera.org or checking out the Festival Opera YouTube channel to see your mixtape episode, which is really, really fantastic and spans so many beautiful themes that are actually really crucial to meditate on at this time. And it was like really conscientiously crafted by you and well accompanied with Zach and your interplay. I know that you've worked together quite a bit over the years.
Yeah.
So it's just a really wonderful gem. You were talking about developing this like vocal rawness, vulnerability, the kind of the complexity of having a bel canto technique. And the reason I wanted to like have you explore a little bit more, I think we're getting off the beaten path, but I want to, is talking about some of your history, that you've had such a multidisciplinary background. You've authored a biography, you've done some
Yes.
libretto, you've worked as a medical massage therapist pre-pandemic. So how do you think those things inform you in terms of being a vocalist, or understanding how to potentially in the future write and compose for other vocalists, as well as developing that really like humanistic rooted sound that you have?
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to what I was saying earlier about festival opera being a place where you really can be all that you are as as an artist. So often artists, especially classical artists, are seen by the public as really being only one thing. And if they stray away from that one thing, that must somehow mean that they're unsuccessful. And I think that that is a real disservice that we do to our classical artists, because a classical music career, especially in this country, is a hard slog. You really have to you have to wear many hats, even in the context of a career. You have to be a publicist. You have to be, a social media manager. You have to be a travel agent. You have to be a stylist. You have to, there's so many hats you have to wear in order to, and your talent is really a fraction of that, unfortunately. But I also really think that what every artist brings to the table is a full life and a full imagination and a full engagement with their community. And if you take the time to talk to a singing artist, an opera singer, about their life surrounding opera and what they bring to their roles and what they bring to their technique and what is filtered through their instrument from their lives, and what else interests them and fascinates them, you'll find that you learn so much more about this artist, and that there is so much more to us than the pageantry and the kind of cardboard cutout of the diva or divo. And that's part of what I've always wanted to do in my career, which is to bring the humanity of the singing artist not just to the stage, but to the audience. That there shouldn't be a wall between our mysterious way of living and who we are singing to and for, because the less connected we are, the more disconnected our audiences get from this art that is crying out for understanding. Opera, if nothing else, is built around storytelling that connects human beings across generations and generations and lifetimes. And no matter when this composer or when this first singer that breathed life into this work lived, we all, live in these emotional vehicles and in societies and in moments in history. And if you can hear, what is being conveyed through the art form, just like when you open a great book and go on a journey that somebody like Jane Austen wrote, or Henry James, from such a different time, but you walk in their shoes and you breathe with them and you feel their emotions. It's the same in real time in this multimedia way in opera. And so yes, when I write a historical biography, or when someone challenges me to write my first libretto and then shoot it as a film, like they did last year, or when someone asks me to take on, to direct or to stage manage or to step in and do super titles, or to, help people imagine a new way of doing things, I can't love that. I just couldn't love that more, because it means that I get to participate in this art form becoming more real to people, having a more human existence, and really making landfall in people's consciousness in a way that is not just a museum piece. You know, the same way that you would go to a museum and look at a beautiful painting, but not know anything about the painter or their life. But if you even just read the card next to the painting, that painting takes on a whole different understanding and affects you totally differently. Well, each opera singer is a moving, living piece of art, and if you don't ask them about what the rest of their life is involved with, and what they care about, and what they stand for, and what they're fascinated by, then you're really only getting, you're just passing by them in the gallery and saying, well, that was lovely, and we'll go to lunch, you know. And
Right.
so yeah, that's, so when I do all of, when I'm invited to do any aspect that's surrounding just being the performer, I jump at the chance, because it gives me another way of knowing the art form that I love, but also making that art form real, to people.
Of course, yeah. And furthermore, I think that's why you've collaborated with Festival Opera so many times, because I think there is definitely an alignment on finding this human relatable route with performances. I think a lot of people can talk the talk, but I haven't necessarily seen a lot of examples of that impact really piercing through. And just from my perspective, if you're a singer or a vocalist who doesn't have another vocation, avocation, multiple passions, it's hard to kind of tap into that kind of that Stanislavski method of
Yes.
being able to inhabit a character without those insights and multiple connections that kind of come into building a character. I would
Yes.
imagine. I'm happy for anybody to tell me if I'm wrong about that, but I think it can be really helpful, and I definitely read that in all of the performances you've done.
Well,
I
that's a tremendous accomplishment, because if it's anything that I want people to feel about my work, I want them to feel that I care.
Sure, of course. I think that's it's an important aim as an artist. One of the things that I wanted to follow up with you about was too coming back to the stage um, during pandemic. I don't think we're post pandemic yet, and like all of the emotions that go along with it, and like kind of the vulnerability that comes up with having to bring the performance together after such an uncertain time, and a lot of people being vocally I wouldn't say out of shape, but not perhaps not on in top form because of those changes.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to my fellow singers, so many of us have a story, that's similar, during that first year when everything went away. Many of us really felt too sad to sing. And so, anything that gave us a reason. I was very fortunate to have some online concert opportunities, and people kind of pulling me out of the woodwork to keep me alive artistically, but they were few and far between. I certainly had to find other ways. I built a writing business to make my living. Um, but I think all of us, as we even come out of the online, connectivity, music making trend, are finding that being together and making music is so raw, because we're not used to it. We got, I think all of us who were sort of bathing in music 24/7, or just kind of hammering our way through a career, going from thing to thing to thing, really took for granted the privilege of being in each other's sound baths, being with each other in real time, and making music in real time, and ensemble, and breathing together, and all of these things. And it was so terrible to feel in the pandemic that the very thing that we do, which is breathe out sound, was dangerous. We were super spreaders. We went from being artists to kind of monsters of in a sense, that what we were doing was so dangerous. And It was terrible. It was a terrible feeling. I really remember really envying, a cellist who could put on a mask and get up on the stage and still move people when they needed it so much. And I really, couldn't give in the same way early on. Later on,
Right.
when we knew more, you know, that
Right.
changed. But and then the other thing is that I sang so many funerals, and in the last 3 years, I've sung more funerals than in my whole life. And while that is a tremendous honor and a privilege to have someone, request your voice to be their voice in a sense on that day, um, it's it's vulnerable, and it's hard um, to have your instrument, kind of be be needed more for that than for celebration. So going forward, um, getting back into a rehearsal room with people, getting back into learning, a full role that's new to me, which I hadn't done in, 3 years. Reminding myself that I can do that and that all my old methods are still, valid, and that my brain is gonna be able to, be up to the challenge, and that it's okay to be anxious and it's okay for things to just be new. And what I'm really concentrating on, and what I really encourage my fellow artists to do, is just to let yourself be new on this side of what we all went through together. There are going to be some things that come up, because when you open yourself to your instrument and you open your heart to people in this way that we are able to do, um, things can come up. You might start crying for no reason, or you might be nervous in ways that you've never been nervous before, or you might suddenly find a color that you never had in your technique, which is also happening to me on the other side of this. And so just let yourself be new. And I think, and forgive yourself for the things that used to be easy being a little difficult as you move forward and come back and find out what this newness is.
I think, vocalists have experienced, like a true PTSD and a true trauma because
Yes,
of what has
I think
happened.
that's
And
okay
like,
to say.
and I think, I, in this really darkly comedic thing, I kept thinking about all of the soubrettes and light lyrics who had to start thinking of themselves as super spreaders. And it
It's
was like,
terrible.
what a like weird feeling to be like, I never thought of myself as being a dangerous person. I'm never cast in that role. And and how much that impacts just like knowing what was going to come next. And I mean, I am grateful to see Festival Opera get to, I mean, inhabit a really great role in terms of providing really high quality digital content for sure. But it's nice to know that we're returning with you taking the stage and playing Norma this summer. So I trust that you're finding joy in terms of performing again and gearing
Oh,
up for
yes,
it. But
truly.
because but because you and I are the deep thinkers that drink whiskey in the corner of the bar usually, I did want to ask you about I did want to ask you about kind of, you are a context based, where are we now in society kind of
Yeah.
artist and vocalist. So share a little bit about what this framing and performance of Norma at Festival Opera this summer means for you. What are some of the things that you feel like you want to imbue the character and the story with?
Well, I think just me as an artist and me as a person, I always want to take where I am in my personal life and where we are in the world, and really filter that through any performance that I make. But I also think Norma is a very unique vessel in the operatic pantheon. I think she is one of a very few operatic heroines that gets to order her own existence. Yes, she's acted upon by external patriarchal forces. But and in the end, what I keep coming back to with her is her integrity. She is the only character on the stage that has integrity. And and even to dig more deeply into that integrity, meaning a sense of herself and a sense of her responsibility and taking responsibility. Yes, she's made some mistakes in her youth, and she's paid for those. But by the end of the opera, she comes to this moment where she steps into her truth. And I think we're in a moment in the world and in society where especially younger people are really wanting to live in their truth in a way that maybe we've never allowed in society before. There's a lot of pushing back against anything that stands in the way of that while we feel the pressure of things like the environment and political forces and so many things that are already hard to push against, so many people are saying, this, we have this grand resignation, we have all of these people sort of saying, you know what, no, I'm not working this crappy job anymore. I'm not going to hide who I am or who I love. I'm not going to hold myself back from a dream. I'm not going to, build a family in a way that I don't recognize as a family. I'm not going to order my life according to gender roles or patriarchal systems or white supremacy. There's lots of an awakening to what it is to step into one's truth. And what I love about Norma is that she has this role that she's given that's powerful, but it's contingent upon her obeying. Right? She's given this almighty, holy high priestess role, but it can be taken away, and so can her life if she doesn't obey this cult of virginity. So up comes all of these ideas of women and being judged based on their sexual choices. She's had 2 children, and cannot share those children with her community because they are not, once again, she would lose her power because she's lost her virginity, but also she's allied with this Roman proconsul. So she's broken cultural barriers. She's broken this promise of purity. And so she holds on to her power because it's the only way she can protect the people that she loves. But in order to hold on to that power, she has to live a lie. And so when this young woman, Adalgisa, comes to her, and she sees in her herself both the joy of her life and the downfall, she really makes a choice to not only take responsibility for her own mistakes and the tragedies that befell her, but also to save this young woman's life. And if we look at the generations of women in feminism and how we are coming to a place where we have to look at what intersectionality is and how it's failed us in the past, and take responsibility for who feminism has left behind, particularly women of color, and how that has manifested itself and how we are responsible for each other's fates, and to now have Roe v. Wade hanging in the balance, and really have this group of people who are not of childbearing age and are not of the demographics who will be most, impacted by this, making these decisions in back rooms about our power as citizens and as individuals and as people of integrity who take responsibility for the direction of our life. I think Norma has so much to say about standing for what you believe in, even if that's standing in flames.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. And honestly, I think it really highlights how antiquated and reductive
Mhm.
um, censorship and control of the female body or the assigned female at birth configuration of being, anything that kind of defies traditionally and largely toxic masculinity, that's been going on for so long and holding what a strong cultural hold we have on it. So I think a remarkable thing about you to me, it's a long list, but in this context is just how deeply you excavate both what is current and how time is ever revolving but also revisiting these types of
Oh,
themes.
yes.
And I think that is the crux of whether people engage with opera or not,
Well, many
and
people ask me how I can be an opera singer and a feminist, and and it's a good question. But what I always keep coming back to is, and Norma once again sits at the crossroads of cultures, right? The Druidic culture versus the Roman culture. And we know that what happened is that the Roman culture took over all pagan cultures and subsumed them under, a Catholic mentality moving forward. And so we also have to remember that Bellini is an Italian male, right? And so and these audiences that this opera was written for were initially certainly European, but also Italian audiences. So this is a story about the fall of Druid culture, um, and this barbaric woman, right? Who is both allowed the freedom to be this character because she's not of, but also must die because she is who she is. It's filtered through this um, Catholic Italian male lens, and so. But what I love about these characters is that they always rise above that. Like the essence of true female heroic power in particularly in operatic roles um, always filters through. It always rises like cream to the top. And if you can catch the spirit of that, and if you can imbue your own character through that essence that always wins, you can bring humanity and reality and a three-dimensional um, uh, way of being to these characters that maybe wasn't even intended to begin with. Maybe they were supposed to be these cardboard cutouts of the female romantic ideal, but they can be redeemed. And when we redeem them, I think we give the art form a facet that makes it more viable in current culture. Um, just like the Mona Lisa smile could mean a million things and has over the centuries, depending on what the zeitgeist is. I think that there's a Mona Lisa smile in every great operatic female character, and we have to decide what she's smiling about for us.
I'm going to out myself as a speech language pathologist when we talk about text
Definitely.
or anything verbally being delivered. Everything is about intonation, body
Yes.
language, paralinguistic parameters. Um, and that gives the meaning that the text can't only carry, right,
Yes.
in the performance. And so I
Yes.
think casting the right vocalist, casting the right artist makes all of the difference in terms of what the meaning ends up being, and us being able to be transformative at Festival Opera and other opera companies in delivering these messages and reframing these messages and being more representative.
For
I
sure.
mean,
And yeah,
go ahead.
Bellini puts it in every single 16th note. I mean, the language is so precise. You know, some composers will let you kind of figure out where to put the emphasis yourself. Not with Bellini. It is absolutely scripted in how to deliver each of these utterances.
Absolutely. I think for the most part, because one of the things I want to share with the audience, if they're not aware, is that you're a multiracial person. You,
Yes.
as a feminist, you're also a strong advocate for the LGBTQIA plus community, and particularly trans and gender nonconforming people. So, from that lens and all the things that you've shared, what are some of the changes that you want to see in opera that you haven't shared so far?
Well, thank you for calling me all of those things, because I really try in every possible way to be that. Of course, being a mixed racial woman in any kind of public forum, especially being, white appearing and having such a strong and rooted Black history um, on my Black side, but not to be downplayed. I come from very hardworking, um, very kind white folks who never treated my mother with anything but 100% true love, and that is quite amazing coming from, a white grandmother who picked cotton and took in laundry, and a Black grandmother who had a master's degree from Columbia. So it's it's a little bit of an inside out picture, even, from that sense. Um, but everybody always treated each other with tremendous respect. And so I often say that because I am living proof that uh, people of vastly different racial backgrounds and cultures can love and respect each other fiercely. And, I'm literally made up of that love. And so when anybody is at a sort of crossroads once again of moving into their truth, or living into the diversity within them, I am always ready to be part of that and to learn about that. The trans people in my life have taught me so much about interrogating my own internal gender roles, and how I gender and misgender myself, and how, I've downplayed some of my strength, or I've been ashamed of some of my more muscular physicality as an athlete all my life, for patriarchal reasons, and really I've found so much, you know renewal, I guess, of inner conversation with self through the experiences that I see in the LGBTQ IA plus community, and through, families being made in new ways, and people really living in new and beautiful and really true ways, um, that I don't think has really ever happened before, and I think it's a marvel, and I think anything we can do to support that and learn from that makes us better people and a better community as a whole. So yes, what I love about Festival Opera being really part of that conversation and wanting to pull that into their role, once again proves the fact that opera and classical music can have something to say about our current existence, and there are many, many, many stories and colors and facets throughout this repertoire that uphold that storytelling. So anytime I get a chance to tell those stories, or to support the telling of those stories, I will take that opportunity 100%.
Yes, thank you. I think that's such an important example to have, especially publicly. And one of the things I've been proud about with Festival Opera is having a number of programs from non-binary, gender fluid, and queer folks like Matthias and Lily doing They Sing later in
So
May.
exciting.
Yes, at the Piedmont Center for the Arts. So if this airs before then, but even afterwards, continue to support the programming we have at Festival Opera so that we can have more inclusive, diverse, and really representative programming that really speaks to multiple generations. I also want to highlight that the next mixtape episode is with tenor Taylor Thompson in June. So that's something to look forward to on top of all of the work that you're doing with us, Blake.
So much to be able to access, in this ongoing way too. That's the wonderful thing about the online programming, is that you can access it on your own terms and come back to it over and over again.
Yes, and a lot of it's free to the public, which
Oh
is really,
yes.
really fabulous. I do want to plug that we're going to have Norma July 8th and July 10th at Hoffman Theater at the Lesher Center for the Arts. So the July 8th performance is an evening 7:30 performance. That July 10th is at 2 p.m. matinee performance. Is perfect time to get brunch as well. And this will be in Walnut Creek, so it's wonderful to have it local to the Bay Area, and
Oh
everybody
yes.
should get their tickets soon. And we'll keep everyone updated, obviously, if any like COVID policies change for the Lesher Center, and making sure that everybody who's attending feels safe and protected as much as possible. I did want to close out because you and I are both like emotionally dense, dark, noir type of people. Like I
Sure.
thought, I was like, I should probably lift the mood before I let everybody go. And before they start listening to Elliott Smith. So I was going to ask you a few questions, just like a little hot button round. You give me
Sure.
very short answers, and then we just get to know little facets about you. Um, Tell me a little bit about what's your go-to cocktail or beverage?
Oh goodness, I love a Vesper martini. It's the original from the James Bond series with a little vodka lillet, gin, and a twist. It's really kind of dry and with a little bit of floweriness from the lillet, and it goes down almost too smoothly. But it's my little tip of the hat to Vesper from the James Bond series, who was the
That
only
sounds
woman he ever
delicious.
really loved.
Yes, I think I want that as well. I'll make sure to be stocked up for that if when you visit.
But you were right earlier about liking a good whiskey as well. In fact, the Japanese whiskeys are delightful. So if
I
you haven't
do.
taken a chance on a Japanese whiskey, they're really fun. No
Yeah, you're
no
overdue.
disrespect to the Scottish and the deep tradition, but the Japanese have something to offer as well.
Yeah, love of whiskey and scotch doesn't need to be mutually exclusive.
Not at
We can
all.
sample all of the things. What's a comfort food that you enjoy?
Oh goodness, whenever I am feeling that I need comfort, I head for Indian food. I really do.
I'm personally
Indian food,
touched.
yeah, Indian food has been my comfort food since time out of mind, since the first time I ever tasted it, which I think was in high school. Um, yeah, if
Mm.
I'm ordering Indian food, it's been a rough day and I might have a little cry.
Let me know when we when we go do that next time. I'll
But I
come
also
cry.
I have definitely order it when I'm happy too. But I'm just
I'll
saying,
come cry with you. We'll bring
yeah,
Japanese whiskey and get Indian food. I think that's a great
yes,
time.
please,
Um,
please.
in terms of your playlist, is there anything like contemporary that you love to listen to, either when you're working out or when you're taking a drive? What's been on your playlist?
Sure. Recently, I've been obsessed with PJ Morton and Tank and the Bangas. They both have this kind of retro, a little bit Stevie Wonder, both based in New Orleans. I love anything that comes out
Mm,
of NOLA. NOLA is just it's one of my dreams to be cool enough to go write a book in New Orleans one of these days. Maybe
nice.
somebody will give me a month off so I can go get a cute little apartment in New Orleans and just walk around those cobblestone streets and hear the sounds and eat the food and right. So anything that comes out of New Orleans is already my favorite. But yeah, PJ Morton and Tank and the Bangas are really high up on my list right now.
So you're sending me texts after this, and then I'm going to add those things to listen to.
Yes.
I do you have a celebrity crush?
Well, Prince forever. That
That's cheating. That's
God bless
fair.
Prince forever and ever. But I mean, obviously he's not. He's with us, but not in the perfect flesh anymore. Current celebrity crush. I mean, you know, that's a rough one. I like him smart, not just pretty. I'm not kind of a pretty celebrity crush person.
That's okay.
So whoever's, clever, yeah,
I'll tell
whoever's
you a
smart,
story.
please.
I had some Indian family friends ask me who my favorite actor was, and so they were either thinking I was gonna name somebody from Bollywood or that I was gonna
Mm.
name some like heartthrob. And then I was 13 and I said Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I mean, I can understand that. He was an extraordinary actor.
Yeah, I was all about character actors at that time. I took it
Oh,
very
yeah.
seriously. So I completely connect with what you're saying. Um
Yeah.
I
Whenever they give smart, sensitive performances, I mean, I love the English actors. I'm definitely an Anglophile in terms of television. I'll BritBox all day long because the performances are just so great. You just can't beat a really great actor. So yeah, I mean, I guess Danny
so
Craig's
Colin Firth
pretty cute.
probably.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm a more of a Danny Craig than a Colin Firth. Let's put it
Okay.
that way.
You like everything a little bit rougher. I understand.
You know, he's smart. He's a sweetheart. He's really good to his wife, and he can put somebody right through a wall. And I think that's just fantastic.
See,
Good for him.
Blake, nobody holds a candle to you because you understand putting everything in context when it comes to performances. You
Right.
also have all of your priorities straight, which is really, really
Right.
important. That's key.
Yeah.
Um, I had such a good time talking to you today, and it's been too long. And I was nervous, kind of jumping back into the seat, but you're just a wonderful person to get to sit and get to know more. And just want to reinforce, come see the main stage opera, our performance of Bellini's Norma, July 8th and
Coming
10th
up
at
so
Hoffman
fast.
Theater. Yeah, Lesher Center
Coming
of
up
the
so
Arts.
fast.
Yes, so please check out tickets. Go get them at festivalopera.org, and please enjoy our wonderful Blake in the titular role. It's very, very exciting, and I will fly out for it specifically. So I'm very,
Yay.
very excited. Blake, thank you so much again for sharing your time, and I hope to chat with you again, and I can't wait to see you in person.
Well, you and I could talk for hours, and I'm just glad that other people got to hear it this time.
Yeah, I
And
know.
and I will say also, as a little sneak preview, I saw some of the set designs, preliminary sketches. It's going to be
Mhm.
a gorgeous, gorgeous show, and
Peter Crompton is fantastic.
God bless that man. Just goddess bless that man. Peter Crompton is a genius, and yeah, you must see what he's done already. I can only imagine that it's going to be in 3 dimensions. It's going to be absolutely stunning. So everything new costumes, new sets. It's going to be a really fresh take. And yeah, and the chorus is amazing. Like everybody, the cast is amazing. I can't wait. Come
Yes.
on out.
I'm hoping by the time this airs, yeah, you can check out at Festival Opera on Instagram, and then we'll have probably photos from costuming as well as Peter Crompton's designs for the show, so you can, whet your appetite before July. Thanks again, Blake. It's always good to sit with you, and I hope you all tune in again for Behind the Mask next time.
Yes, please. I will. I'll see you there. Ciao.
Bye.